turning this machine upside down on its head may have displaced some of that lubrication. So we lubricate it with it standing upright, but now's a great time to confirm that. Hey, Scott from MyGrowthRings.com. Here is in the space that is the future space of my shop. This is a building behind our new house. It's, what did we say? It's 1,920 square feet. And the plan is to subdivide this a little bit because I don't need that much space for a Shopsmith shop. In fact, what I need is about the space of a one-car garage. So eventually there'll be some walls and some finish work done here. Most important thing, and why I was in my sister's basement for so long, is I had no power out here. Well, now we have power and light. So I, this last weekend, moved many of my things from my sister's basement, and I'm ready to start doing some work here. Now, I was reminded while moving things of a couple issues. The first one is my power station back here, which is a variable speed stand that I can run these single purpose or special purpose tools, such as the bandsaw that you see parked on it right now. It doesn't have casters on it. And so I've purchased a set of casters and need to install those. The second thing I was reminded of is I don't like these 3-inch aftermarket Shopsmith wheels. I started promoting these a little while back, and I did a video about a year ago where I installed these. And it requires you to raise the actual pedal mechanism a little bit higher on the legs to accommodate the additional diameter of the wheel. But what I didn't think through at the time was the caster assembly will only lift the machine as high as it has always lifted the machine. So let's say you get about a 1/2 inch of lift. That's all I still have. And yes, it's true. A larger diameter wheel will roll over things like, air hoses and extension cords a little bit easier. But for the most part, I've got a nice smooth concrete pad here. I don't need to be rolling over a lot of obstacles. And it frustrated me in a way that I didn't expect. And that is, I don't know if you can see it, on the back side of this machine, I have an accessory shelf. That's where I keep my most frequently used things, my guards, push sticks, push blocks, things like that. And by raising those pedals higher, it makes it more difficult for me to reach my foot underneath there to raise the machine up. And so since I really don't see the benefit to me, I am going back to these casters that I found on Amazon. These are I don't know if they're rubber or polyurethane, whatever they are. They're a softer wheel than the stock hard black plastic. And I really like the way the machine rolls on these, and I can bring the casters back down to their original position. Additionally, when I was moving this power station back here, now the power station is a variable speed stand that you can run the accessories that also mount on the Mark V. So things like my bandsaw and belt sander, strip sander, things like that. If I'm using my lathe, for example, I can have my grinding wheel mounted on this machine, and I'm not having to switch things out while I work. I forgot I don't have casters on that. So I've purchased a set of casters to install on the power station and want to do that. So we're going to swap out those wheels for these. We're going to install the casters on this, which, by the way, are the exact same caster set that the Shopsmith sells today for their newly relaunched SPT stands. So I'll show you how those install. But first, let's get these casters off of here. What am I going to do with those? I think I'm going to give them away to somebody. So stick around. We'll talk about how we're going to accomplish that. So the first thing I need to do is to remove some of these accessories I have mounted to my machine. I guess those magnets can stay. I'm going to tip this machine head over heels, and all these things are going to fall off if I don't remove them. And additionally, I want to get these tables as far apart as possible to give me a big footprint. I don't normally put this extension table on this end because that's where I usually have my jointer. But for this, I can get it a little bit further away from the main table. I want to have this now at a height that's going to allow the headstock to be below the height of this table. Lock that in place as firmly as possible. I'm going to slide the carriage all the way to the end here. Lock it in place. And we'll raise that table up a tad. You could lay a straight edge across here if you had a straight edge. Where's the straight edge? And let's lay a straight edge across here to get these tables close to level. Lock it in place. And since I have stop collars mounted on these tables, I'm going to go ahead and drop these stop collars down so that there's no chance the tables will retract on me. You don't have to do this, but that's a bonus tip for you. Put the headstock roughly in the center now. And because there's less table here than there is here, it's easier to tip this machine backwards. So I'm going to do that. First, let's get these down off of the casters. And I'm going to hold on to the weight of this here at the headstock. Oh, didn't completely empty this. This over, and I may switch positions a little bit, but let's get this down on to this hardboard I have on the floor. Again, missed something else. No, I did not make this accessory shelf, and I don't like that accessory shelf. It came with this used Mark V, but it's been okay for now. And I'm going to remove the caster assembly and put it back in its original position. Now, here's something else I'm not entirely thrilled by. Installing this set of casters higher up in an area where the legs taper in required us to spread the legs a little bit. So now I have a kink right here on all these legs. I can see where we shifted that up. Does it matter? I guess not, but it still bothers me a little bit. And as we tighten these on, we want to make sure that this portion of the leg goes into the groove in the casting portion of the caster. And because we've got a slight bend, you might have to give it a tap with a screwdriver to get that to happen. Yeah, we're in the groove here, but here we're catching the top lip. So we'll just give this a tap with a flat blade screwdriver. Get that to seat properly. So next, let's get the casters installed in the power station. Now we're going to take anything off of it that's on it. If you have, I have a magnetic light on it. I think there's a hex wrench for sure. There's a bandsaw. We'll get all that cleared off. And so we can turn it upside down on its head. We're going to steal apart from the Mark V. And what are we stealing from the Mark V? We're going to steal this extension table. And don't forget, as I mentioned, I have one of these collars on here to limit the drop or the depth of this. I'm going to use that here so I'm not relying solely on the set screws to hold this table in place. So here on the power station, I have a couple locations I can put this table. I can put it here, which is a higher location, or I can put it down here. Also, I can flip this table either direction. If I put it this way, it would extend a little bit further to the left, but it also makes it extend further to the front. So I'm going to go ahead and put this in this location. We're going to check with a straight edge to get the height right. And close enough, should be close enough. At this height, I have two set screws I can lock. I've got one here, and I've got one here. Lock those in place. We can also locate our stop collar to keep everything from retracting. Make sure that this is as far away from the headstock as possible and locked in place. And then we're going to tip this over. We're going to go forward. helpful to have a little bit of table. So brand new caster set. Plenty of packing material in place. We want to make sure we don't lose any of the hardware. There's an instruction sheet, and it's not quite as straightforward as you would think. As you see, for some folks, if you purchase these casters, you may not already have holes in the legs. So they give us a template for drilling the hole location, which is nice. And they give us the breakdown of the parts. Now, what's different here between the Mark V casters is we have a bolt. Notice they're calling it 2 bolts. The number 14 is for use when you're using casters on a Mark V. Bolt number 15 is longer. It's used for the power station and for SPT stands. And then we have a spacer, number 16. And these are these black plastic spacers. And those are going to go between the leg and the caster. So we're going to take a look at these to determine which direction these mount. Now the wheels are going to go into these holes. Every now and then someone will install one upside down. Again, not the end of the world. But we do want to make sure we position these properly. So this is going to go in this direction. The pedal is closer to this edge, which is the edge that has the switch. Double check that. No, I'm backwards. Our switch is over on this side, so I want to be sure that I install that here. Okay, so we're going to pass the bolt through the hole. Now there's a hole, there's 2 holes and a slot. We're going to pass that through the hole. And I'm going to feed one of the plastic washers onto that. Here's where an extra set of hands sure would come in handy. We're going to feed the caster over that and just cantilever it under the weight there. We're going to add a washer. And this is a wavy, theoretically, lock washer. And then Shopsmith, even going back to Magna, have traditionally used in a lot of locations these silly square nuts. Now they're great. You can get an open end wrench on them or an adjustable wrench, but you can't put a socket on them, which can be a little bit of a pain. In fact, let's make sure we have a wrench handy for this. 7/16. Take another long bolt, another washer, another nut. Come over to this side, start the bolt through, catch the spacer, and push it on through. At this point, there's very little thread available to me. I may need to loosen up some parts of the base here to get a little additional flex, but we're there. There's a second set of holes in the rail, and there's a second set of holes here on the base, and so that's going to have to go up in order to accommodate this lever. So we have a square nut and a flat screwdriver. Is that square? No, it's a hex. Whenever you assemble or disassemble one of these, it's a law, I believe they call it gravity, a law, though, that requires that at least one part has to fall down into the cavity below, and you won't find it until you stand the machine back up. Drop this on down. Lower position. Or I guess it's higher when we stand her up. Get that on loosely. Shift that one down. And yeah, I don't quite align. So like I said, we'll have to loosen some things up. We're almost there. Here we go. We're going to start the bolt through, slide a spacer on it, raise the caster up and align to that hole. Hold everything in place, a little bit of pressure with my thumb, and get the nut started. There we go. Again, we're going to start with the bolt passing through the hole. Just as soon as it's passing through, we'll catch the spacer with it, pass it through the hole in the caster assembly, washer, nut. There we go. So everything's in place. Now we just need to tighten everything up. All right, and from there we just go ahead and push the casters in. These are the same old-fashioned hard plastic casters that have been used for years. On the power station and SPTs, these are fine for me. If I had a rougher floor, I'd probably go with the upgrade 2-inch casters from Amazon, but these should perform fine here. Now, there's one more thing you might want to do while you have your power station or crafter station upside down, and that is to take a picture of the label that's on your motor. Now, Shopsmith used a couple different variants of motors. The crafter station and the power station both require occasional lubrication. How much lubrication and where do you lubricate varies by motor, but in one case, it's up to 50 drops of oil. So check that label now. Turning this machine upside down on its head may have displaced some of that lubrication. So we lubricate it with it standing upright, but now's a great time to confirm that. Also, while you have it upside down in this position, tighten any bolt that's on the lower side of the machine that might otherwise be difficult to get to. Then we'll stand it upright and double check all the bolts at the top. There we go. Perfect. We're ready to roll. All right. So that was easy peasy. We just have one more bit of unfinished business, and that is who wants my old 3-inch polyurethane casters? I say old. These haven't been on there but maybe a year or so. They've gotten very little use. Could I have made these work? Yeah, I mean, I could have. But as I mentioned, it puts the pedal too high for me, and it's difficult to use with the accessory shelf. If you don't have an accessory shelf on your machine, you might not notice that one bit. Or maybe you'd be comfortable just switching the entire caster assembly left or right, which would put the pedal on the back side of the machine. To me, that's just one more hassle I don't need. And I have a perfectly smooth concrete floor here, so I don't need these. So if you're interested and you're in North America, I'll do a random drawing in our follow-up video, somebody who wins this, and to enter, leave a comment down below and include the word PEZ, P-E-Z. So give me your thoughts on PEZ. Do you like a particular dispenser? Do you like a particular flavor? Did you grow up with them? I want to know about your passion if you have one for PEZ. If you leave a comment like that, you are in the running to receive my casters. I'll also leave in the shop notes, the video description to doobly-doo, links to the Econo upgrade, the 2-inch casters that I just put on my Mark V and that I dearly love. They're inexpensive, and they are a great upgrade from the hard plastic casters that came standard with Shopsmith casters. All right, I look forward to your questions, comments, cheap shots, and I'll see you for the follow-up video from a hotel in Dallas, Texas. Should be interesting. All right, make it a great day.